Welcome to Happy Talks with Dr. Alice and Donovan. Dr. Alice Fong is a holistic naturopathic doctor and founder of Amor de Soi Wellness. And Donovan Jensen is a software engineer and founder of HowToHappy.com. Together, they're out to cause more happiness in the world.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Alice, and this is my co-host, Donovan. Welcome to Happy Talks. Today, I have an awesome guest. ST Rappaport is a relationship photographer and the host of LifePix Relationships Podcast. Please welcome ST. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here speaking with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. And you have like a really interesting background and story and a topic that you want to discuss. So I'll let you take it away, share your story and why you decided to speak on the topic that we're speaking on today about your non-dominant hand. So go for it.
Yeah. It's actually really like it just happened. It wasn't really so much of like a plan, like, oh, I'm going to always be a nurse type of thing. And then I go become a nurse. Happens to be the photography part was. So I always knew I would be a photographer. I did that like I got paid literally since I was 12 for it. And like college, rented a studio and all that stuff. And as I was doing photography, I was doing specifically just with couples, relationships. I realized that we would take their like favorite picture and hang it up on the wall, like a vision board. Now, I think vision boards are cool. Like they really do like set your mind in the right direction, but they don't actually go and help you. Like when you're having that fight with your partner, it's not going to go and solve your problems. So I was like, okay, like what else can I go and do with my clients? Like I didn't have patience going back to school. Sorry, how you have a PhD, I don't know, but I'm not like for at all. Like I just don't have patience for it. I really admire people that do. So I was like, okay, what else could I do to really go and help my clients? And someone was by me for the weekend. Like she needed a place to stay and she was by me and does this like non-dominant hand thing. And I was like, oh my God, this like sounds way too cool. Like I need to hear about this. Like I write with my non-dominant hand and I like get the answer that I need. Like now if like I'm upset about something, like I figure out why, like what's going on here. So I went to her and she lived 2 hours away. I was like, okay, I'm doing sessions in person when it was still such a thing. And I would drive 2 hours to her each direction to do the sessions. And it literally like changed my life. And so then I went to get trained and I mixed it in together with what I do now. So I now combine it together with the photography that I do.
I was just going to ask, because I think we got a little bit of some of the different tactics or some of the things you do, but I was curious about what the position is or what the goal is or what your clients are, right? Like it sounds like it's probably couples and there's a photography aspect and I wasn't quite connecting. I'm missing the piece of like the bigger picture.
The background of it. Yeah. So my clients are people who are in good relationships, who want to go and like make it even better. Like there's something there that they want to just go like, how could they go and like really have that extraordinary relationship, like always be passionate, always on fire, always everything going on. So it started off with just photography. They would come, we would have these sessions. First of all, just those sessions themselves are really bonding. They're very natural. Like literally you go do what you have to do. And I'm taking your pictures outside here in the park or by the beach or wherever else you want to do the pictures. And then you see them on the wall and it brings you back to those memories because you remember that amazing time and it like keeps on anchors it. Now, that's how it started. When we bring in this non-dominant hand thing is when we'll get more, like I'm assuming that we're going to go more deep into it and how it really works and what it does actually for you and for your relationship and just for your life and how you could improve all aspects of it. Then they learn these techniques of how they can go and do it to improve their relationship. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense. I don't know why I was missing that one piece, but it sounds like
I just probably really wasn't clear because I say it so much. I'm like, assuming there's like already background information, know, but like really not.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and let me know if I messed up, but it sounds like you had kind of this journey of you were doing the photography stuff. You kind of ended up in the niche of photography for couples. And then as you were working with those couples, you started finding other tools to help them enhance their relationship even more. And it sounds like this non-dominant writing thing, which I would love to know more about right after this. But that's one of the primary tools that you found useful.
Exactly right.
So how does it work exactly? And what do they do? What are they writing about? And it seems like really messy.
Yeah, it is really messy, and that's why it's like
how does
expressive arts.
Yeah,
it's not like
nothing,
no like rules about it. Maybe like I should first, so you get a little bit of background. I'm gonna explain a little bit of science behind it, and then like I'll explain like how you use it and how you guys could go and use it, listeners could go and use it to actually improve your own lives and be happier and just process emotions. So our emotions live in our subconscious brain. Okay. Now there are two halves of our brain.
Yeah.
Right. And the left side of our brain is in charge of the right side of our body. Right. And our right side of our brain is in charge of our left side of our body. Now, the left side of our brain is in charge of all the logic stuff. So think math, reading, writing, time, organization, all those types of things. And the right side of the brain is in charge of all creative stuff. So art, music, drama, and emotions also in that part. And that is why I'm like jumping around here.
No, that's
okay. So once you understand those two parts, okay? So now what happens when you write with your non-dominant hand, then you are creating new neuron connections, and you're being able to go straight into your subconscious mind because you're using the same part of your brain that uses emotions in both parts. And there's less noise there. We live in a very logic world, right? Everything we do, like think about it, even driving, you have to think logically. Am I stopping? Am I turning? Am I going? Everything is very logical, right? So we live a lot in our left brain. As soon as we get into our right brain, then there's much more space, much more things to move around, and we can go and figure out things much more. Now, how do we get into our right brain? By using your non-dominant hand, you are now going, which for most people is your left hand. I'm going to explain afterwards how it works for both. But for most people, it's your left hand. And that means you're using your right side of your brain because your right side of your brain is in charge of your left side of your body. So as soon as you're making those neuron connections, then you could access your emotions and subconsciously right away without having all those noise and all those things that all like those beliefs and all the things that always tell you what your parents say, what social media says, what your friends say, or get out of the way, and you can actually go and get to the core of what you're trying to understand.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess like when they're writing on there, I do have a question about like the opposite because I am left-handed. So I am like, what about me?
Right.
You're left-handed too, Donovan?
Yeah, for sure. So if you're sure it works for you, because a few things. First of all, even though you are left-handed and your right brain is probably more developed than most right people, right? That's why they say like that a lot of people who are left-handed are more creative because they're using their creative brain. But still, our world is a very logical world. So for the most part, unless like someone who is an artist and like is like doing some sort of music or art all day, most people really, really are in their left brain. And besides for that, just by using your non-dominant hand, you're creating new neuron connections. So automatically, instead of every time your brain is like trying to think, instead of it going on the same path it always thought, with all the doors that are blocking it, all the walls that everybody said and all the books that you read and all the things that you saw, they're not there, because instead of going in this direction, now the brain is going in this direction and could go and get the answer that you want.
Okay, that makes sense. I do probably don't exercise my right brain as much as I could. I do know I have a very artistic, creative side that actually we just had a vocal coach as our guest last week. And I was just thinking how I don't do like the artistic things I used to do, like dance and singing and painting or any of that. And so, yeah, I'm curious to see how this would work. And also like when you're getting someone, like you have a couple and they're there and you're having them work with their non-dominant hand, like what are you having them write about, or what's the writing prompt, I guess, or where do they start?
Like once you understand this concept, that with your non-dominant hand, you could do so many things with it. Okay. First thing, most basic, because like you said, it's going to be messy because it's with your non-dominant hand, and it's fine because you're not hanging it up on the wall, right? The point of it is the process of what you're actually going and doing. So it could look like a little kid. It could be big. You could use 4 papers to write 3 sentences. It's fine. But so the first thing I like telling people to start with is when you most people, when they're angry, they do one of two things. They either yell and lash it out on other people, or they bottle it up inside and eventually it explodes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both of those are not healthy. So what you want to do is be able to release it from your body and process it in a healthy way. A really good way to do that is to do something with your non-dominant hand, because that is directly from your emotions onto the paper. So if you just take a marker, a crayon, and just scribble with your non-dominant hand, after like 2 pages of scribbling, you're going to feel it's like, it's just out. You're going to feel so much calmer and more released, and just like the whole thing. Now, if it's like, I'm really angry, like something like over the top and thing, then like maybe you'll want to do something like take clay or Play-Doh and like pound it and mash it with your non-dominant hand, because also it's arts and it's your non-dominant hand. And again, it's going to be able to go and come out of your brain, come out of your body and onto the paper. So it's processed in a healthy way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So
I think it's interesting to me too, from another angle, aside from just the brain wiring, which is, it seems like anything that you do that opens you up to some sort of novelty, right? And for most people, they're not writing with their non-dominant hand ever. It gets you into a different mind space. So the connections aside, right? You're just in a different mental space of like, I was trying to like write out some things while you're talking, and it's like, oh, I have to focus so much more, right? I have to slow down. I can't write nearly as fast. Like there's no way that, or like you said, it would just be a bunch of scribbles. Like that's for sure something I can do. I can do like random hand movements, but
like a
just
2-year-old.
from a different perspective, yeah. but from that perspective too, like you know, all the wiring and stuff aside, like that also makes sense to me on a just a fundamental level, right? Like an immediate, like, oh, I can feel the different experience because I have to focus different. I have to slow down. I have to do these other things. And I can definitely see how that would put you in a different space to solve problems that you know, if you're writing with your dominant hand, you can just breeze through it and be in a space that you're in all the time. Like you were saying, this more logical space. So just doing that little pretend exercise by myself while you were talking showed me a little bit of like what this tactic has to offer.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you said that specific thing, because actually one of the tools that we have for just calming down, like when you're really stressed, not especially angry, but just more like a lot's going on and you feel like your life is flying and you need to just like get into that space that you're talking about, is doing all different drawings, or like they don't have to be like a picture. They could be more like shapes and diagrams of like, you start first with your dominant hand, then you do your non-dominant hand, and then you do them together in like mirror images, or the same thing with the other side, with the same thing, but it's going to be like double images or different things like that, because it really, really, like you said, it just calms your brain down and like makes you focus on something else, and makes you realize what else is going on here.
Yeah, no, and that actually really mirrors a lot of mindfulness practices in a way. And this sounds like a mindfulness practice in a way, because when you're so like, when you're trying to learn to drive a car for the first time, there's so many little things that you have to remember to do, and you're really focused on like, don't want to hit anyone, but eventually you do it enough and it just becomes automatic and you're not thinking about it anymore. You're not so focused, and you can even zone out and space out, versus like when you're doing something new that you're not comfortable with, you're learning and struggling through it. It's like, that's all you're focused on, like Donovan was saying. And that can help you stay present in the moment, versus like having your brain wander with all the thoughts that you're having. You're just like, let's see if I can complete this circle in a relatively look like a circle sort of thing. I don't even know. So yeah. So it sounds like, it sounds like we could scribble it out for just using that, getting the emotion out with the non-dominant hand. But do you also have them like try to and write like words too?
Yeah.
Like
yes,
what kinds of things?
I just wanted to say that, like, for me, like driving a car, right? Like, just like now I'm used to driving a car. For me, writing with my non-dominant hand is like that also, because I've been doing it for so long. So just writing like that doesn't take as much focus anymore, because I'm just used to it. So it's with any skill, it's going to become like that.
Right.
So if it's weird in the beginning, let it be weird.
Let it be weird.
The more you do it, the more you'll get used to it. So I like this basic exercise because it could be like used for so many things. You could literally take it and translate into anything that's going on in your life. So what you want to do is, if you want, you can even try it now while I'm saying it. You'll take a marker or a piece of crayon or something. You could use pens, but just like that, it's more colorful. Yeah, pencils are perfect. And with your non-dominant hand, you are gonna plain paper. That's best with outlines. Most people don't have it's like always in their copy machine.
I always have to take notes randomly, so I like writing things down. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna draw a picture of a situation in your life that a difficult situation. Doesn't have to be like a major earth-shattering, oh my God, like you're going through a divorce right now. It could be something like difficult, like didn't know how to deal with this. Your boss yelled at you. You're not sure what to do about that. Anything that's like not so perfect in your life right now. So just draw a picture of that with your non-dominant hand.
For the record, I don't know if I can even do this with my dominant hand, so it's gonna be a little rough.
Listen, okay. First of all, it could be stick figures. It doesn't have to be anything. It could be just like a little diagram, a little shape. It doesn't have to be. Literally, it could be stick figures. Doesn't make a difference. Now, besides for that, remember, this is not going up on your bedroom wall or on your living room wall for everyone to see. This is just the process, and it's going in the garbage afterwards. I mean, if you want to keep it, go right ahead. People like looking back at it years later and like seeing what happened. But if you don't feel comfortable with it, you could throw it out right after. It's not like pretty. It's called Creative Journal Expressive Arts. Expressive arts is the really important part that I'm stressing here for a reason. So what did you draw?
Okay. It's like a Mona Lisa.
I like it. I see a stick figure. What else?
I gotta draw some hair. I got hair. Hold on. Okay. I'm actually pretty impressed with the circle that I drew for the head. Because I was actually it wasn't as hard as I thought it would to draw a circle. I mean, it's a little shaky. So this is me.
Eating pizza, right?
Yeah, I'm eating pizza. And then I drew this circle to represent my belly because I feel like I've been falling off the wagon with my nutrition. So that's perfect. So yeah, that's what I drew.
Okay, amazing. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I don't really have the space to do it, so I'm not going to share my drawing, but I will show you what I kind of put together. I sort of drew, anyway, I work in software. I don't know if you knew that about me, but I'm a software engineer. So I drew a picture of me with angry eyebrows at a computer, but the squiggles that I just drew will not communicate that. And there's a lot of stuff on my desk at the moment, but
it's okay.
Yeah.
Totally beautiful and totally fine. You did something that you thought you can't do. Okay, you ready now for the fun part?
Okay, what's the fun part?
What you're gonna do now is best if you have like 2 pens in front of you or 2 markers or something. Okay. If you have just one, you'll just
highlighters.
Highlight. See, colorful. It's way funner.
I know. Right?
Like
you're so prepared.
I don't know. I have a lot of things on my desk.
I didn't warn you about this beforehand, so you're.
I didn't know we were this was an interactive drawing, but I'm just prepared.
You guys sounded like the type willing to do this. I was like, let's just do it like this. So much more fun than me just like telling you and like later you'll try
actual like giving people tools instead of just talking at them. We like to like be like, hey, do these things.
Right. Well, listeners. Follow along. As long as you're not driving in your car, then
don't drive. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to have a conversation between your 2 hands, which is really between your 2 brains, right? Okay. Your logic brain and your emotional brain. Mm-hmm. What you're going to do is you're going to ask questions with your dominant hand. So whichever hand you usually write with, that's your dominant hand. Okay. And you're always going to think logically about the questions that you're going to ask. Okay. Now you're going to write the answers without thinking. Okay. You are just going to write your answer. Okay. Now, before I tell you the questions to start you off. Really, you could write any questions, but I'm going to give you like basic questions to just start you off. And then afterwards, if you have more questions, you can go and do that. I just want to give you a huge disclaimer. Okay. This is the first time that you're doing it. So it's most probably you're not going to get anything like major out of it. Like when you meet a stranger for the first time, you don't go and tell them your deepest, darkest secrets right away, right? Now your body has to go and trust this process and has to go and trust you that this is like, okay, to go and tell me why I'm feeling this way, what's going on here. And you might just feel like, okay, this was stupid. I got nothing out of this. But if you do this today, tomorrow, and the next day, over the next couple of days, you'll start seeing you'll get more and more and more answers. You don't have to believe me. Try it and see that it works. Okay.
Okay.
So first question, I'll tell you a few of them and then you'll just have that conversation. So it's like question, answer, question, answer. You ready?
So we're writing this with our dominant hand.
Dominant hand.
And
Yeah.
then,
So the question is, who are you? Now you're talking to the picture. Who are you? Write the question, how are you with your dominant hand?
Should I draw it on my picture or start a new page?
You could do it on another. Most people like doing it on
page.
another paper, but there's no rules.
Okay.
Besides for like which hand you use for what, there's no rules.
Okay. All right. Who am I? Okay.
Who are you? Now you're not you. So it's like, who are you in the picture? So you could write it's you in the picture, but who are you? You're talking to the picture. Who is the picture?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to think of the answer because you're not thinking, you're just writing. Now, if you're feeling stuck on your answer, like you wrote, who are you with your dominant hand, and you get up to your answer and just nothing's coming out, then you might want to do is like repeat the question, like in an answer form. So I am, and then you get to the answer. So like, I am, I don't know, my boss yelling at me or whatever it is. Then the answer will start coming because it will start triggering that side of your brain. Your questions with the questions with your dominant hand. And answers with your non-dominant hand. Yeah, you're going back and forth. That's why you have two different colors to see the conversation, dialogue happening between both sides.
So can you say
question,
the question again?
Who are you? To the picture.
Who am I?
To the picture. And then with your non-dominant hand, answer the question.
Okay.
Ready for the next question?
I am, but I don't know if that's universal.
Okay.
No worries. Take as much time as you need.
Okay. We can go to the next one.
Okay.
That's mean.
Who
I'm
are
mean
you?
to myself. I'm just like, sorry.
How do you feel is the next one? Again, remember you're writing the question with your dominant hand. Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
And answer with your non-dominant.
Hope I can remember these things. I'm never going to be able to read this again.
But your question is with your dominant hand. So that hopefully you'll remember, or you don't have space. So it's not coming out so neat.
I can
or email me afterwards and I'll send you all the questions again.
I can feel, again, going back to some of the other things around like focus and attention and slowing down and stuff. I can feel some of that. What it's being communicated into is some scribbles, but it's okay because even though I may never read this again, because it's incomprehensible, I know what the words are at the moment. So like it's still useful.
Exactly. That's why I always tell my clients that if they write something that they want to remember and they're not going to be able to read it later, they should rewrite it with their dominant hand, like later on, so they remember, because like they got the answer with their non-dominant hand, but they're going to be able to have that. Okay. So then the next question is, why do you feel this way? Or making weird faces. It's interesting to see like wheels in your brain are turning. I'm so curious to hear what you wrote. You'll have to share after. Even though usually like rule number one about these things is that you don't share it with anyone who like you don't share with anyone, period. If there's someone specific that you want to share with and they know they're not going to be fun of you, they know they're either going to be supportive, etc., then you can. That is part of the reason why this works, is because like sometimes people go to therapy or they had like other things and they were forced to say things and they just like messed them up more. So here they know you have your own notebook. No one else is reading it. It's only for you. Put it under lock and key if you need. But here I'd love to hear if you have, I mean, obviously only if you want, but here we have to say, okay, last question. And then you could go and put on, ask more questions if you want, is what can I do to help you? Okay. So the first part of it was trying to understand really what's going on here. Why is it going on like this? What's happening? And then what can I do to help you? You don't want to stay stuck in the past. We want to move on to the future to be able to go and actually make things better. And then after that, if you have more questions, like you're like, I'm doing this dialogue and like, I have so much more questions. I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. I want to know, I'm curious about this. Why did I get this answer? Go right ahead. Ask whatever other questions you want. Why is it like that? What else can I do? How about this? Why did she do that? Da, 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 da. Continue, have that whole dialogue until you really feel like that you got out that whole, everything that you could from this picture. If you're done, I'd love to hear what you wrote.
Yeah, I'll probably ramble on for a minute before I actually say what I wrote, but it's interesting to me because I've done a good amount of journaling, just like classic journal prompts, right? And it's surprising to me. I mean, I don't know if it's because I have experience in it before or because of the difference of this tactic, but I do feel that the things coming up and out quickly. Like, in fact, some of the things before I would even switch hands, I would be like, oh, I know what I'm going to say, but in a way that felt very different than when I've journaled in the past and thought about, kind of, oh, well, the answer to this is this, and I need to work on this and this. Like, it felt different. So again, I have a mix of background and things that come together, so I'm not sure which piece is which, but it definitely was interesting to see that before I even finished writing out the question, sometimes the answer was there.
Because
which is not always the case normally.
Especially that you started writing with your non-dominant hand before you already like turned on like that switch in there for like to fire it to start going. So a lot of times like that happens. People always ask like, well, I got my answer before, or like, what were you saying? What were you thinking? Then like, I was like, as long as you didn't think about your answer and consciously like, okay, this is what I'm going to write, then it's coming from a different part of your brain. So what did you write now?
Yeah, so I had, let's see, who are you? And I put someone that's way too far in their head. Because again, the picture is like me being frustrated at the computer. It's me trying to code and just being stuck on some stuff and like just really frustrated. And it's interesting. I'll go into some more stuff in a second, but it's interesting because to me, before I did this, my solution, the thing that I always go to is like, I need a break. Like, that's what I need. But give me a second. Let me keep going through this stuff. So how do you feel? Frustrated, overwhelmed, lonely, which was an interesting word, right? That's not something that normally would have come up for me. And then, did I miss a question? Let's see. Why do you feel this way? Got it. So this is different. This is a different way than I've thought about it before, but it's because it feels like I'm trying to solve this extremely difficult problem without any help or backup or anyone to offload any of the frustration on or anything. So then on the last part, what can I do to help you? Like, here, instead of the solution that I have historically almost always come up with, which is I need to take a break, it's actually that I need to talk to someone, right? Which is not something that I've come to before. In the past, it's always been this more just like, okay, pounding my head against the computer, trying to figure this out. I'll go take a walk or something, come back. And that does help to a degree, but it is interesting to see that my brain today produced a different, like, you just need to go talk to someone and get some help, or get some backup or someone to just like bounce these things off of or vent. So I'll say success, A+.
Whoa, I love that. Now I will say, like, I've noticed before when I listen to some of your podcast episodes, but also like, especially through our conversation today, that you're really a type of person who's really self-aware, and like, especially that you journal and you know about yourself, and like you're really into self-growth, and like, a lot about yourself. And those are the type of people that from the first time they do this, they get an answer right away. So totally, that's so cool. And like, I'm so curious to hear what would be like if you do that more and try it on other things, what else will happen. So I'm so happy you got an answer. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's fun to do the exercise live. Now I will stop talking and give Alice some space.
I'm like, do I want to share? I don't know. But
it's personal. You don't have to. I'll tell you what.
Because I think it
if
is personal.
you share, I don't want you to share. I know it's like a podcast, and like, I'm not like, it's your podcast and you decide what you want to do. But I'm saying like from a like perspective, like of someone who does this from a coach perspective, if you share and you feel like you don't want to, then later on in the future, it's not going to work. So if you don't want to mess it up for yourself for the future, then like, if you think, depending like what it means, like, oh, I'm just like a little bit nervous, or like, no, I really don't want to share. This is way too personal. Then don't do it. Like, you decide.
Okay. No, I feel like, I'm someone that is pretty open and I'm okay with being vulnerable, even if it's like on YouTube. It's like, whatever. I shared really super personal stories throughout this show. So, but it's just like what happened for me, like, who are you? Because I was looking at the picture of me eating pizza, having a little extra around the belly. And when I initially thought I was supposed to write the answer with my dominant hand, like the term that came to my brain was like fat. But then when it was like going into my non-dominant hand, it was like way harsher than I realized. And it was like, I almost resisted wanting to write it down because I knew people would like, I'd share it. And it was like, it was ugly. It was like the first thought that came to my mind. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so mean and terrible. And I feel like I don't really think that like most of the time, but I guess that's like what came up for me. And then it was like also like out of check or out of control was the other thing. And I was like, oh wow, this is mean. I don't like me being so mean to myself. But then when I went to how do you feel, but I feel like it's like you got to be brutally honestly with yourself to like work through like what's underneath it all. And I guess that's like I am self-conscious about like gaining more weight than I like in the abdominal region when I know I've been more on top of my nutrition and my health. And, I'm role modeling that. I'm a doctor, so I got to model positive, healthy habits. But I fall out of check too, in that I fall off the wagon occasionally too. And lately I've been feeling like I've been off the wagon and I'm trying to get myself in check. But how do I feel? I wrote sad. And that's just the only like simple sad. I feel sad about it. And then why do you feel this way? It's hard to read. I said gained weight more than I like. Yeah. I'm at a more weight than I'd like to be, even though it's like really only maybe like 5 to 8 pounds really, which isn't significant. But I notice like when I get to this weight, even though it's not significantly more than my comfortable weight, it's still, I don't like having like 5 to 8 pounds more than what I'm used to. And what can I do to help you? I wrote love, kindness, and support. Yeah. So that's what came up for me because I feel like, I'm sure there's other people that feel like what I feel. So I want to contribute by being vulnerable, even though I didn't want to. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say that from listening to it, I didn't hear anything that sounded like too crazy or wild. Like it sounded very raw, real, vulnerable, and I'm sure that people listening to it appreciate it. So I would like to give you like a thanks, even though like I don't know if you'll hear from anyone directly, but I think it adds a lot of value to hear some of the experience and stuff, especially if people are going to end up trying this and kind of have some of their own thoughts and feelings that might be difficult to start processing and thinking about. And I think it's really valuable. So I don't think that your difficult moment has happened for no reason.
Yeah, I think it's also like a really human experience, something that like a lot of people deal with.
Yeah.
Like on a very normal basis. So
yeah. No, I think it was good. I do feel good that I shared now that I have. And now that I've like, initially there was like resistance and not wanting to share, but now that I have, I'm like, oh, it's actually not that bad. But I was just kind of like shocked that the first word that I didn't like was ugly.
You like, might want to, like, if you want to take this further, then like tomorrow or the next day, you could go back to that and like dialogue, like, why did it call me ugly versus something else?
Yeah.
And then like, you might get, if you're curious about it, if you're fine with it, then think, but like, you might be like, I'm ugly because of something else. Not that I think you're ugly if you think you're really beautiful, but I'm saying like the journal in it. Why did your body, why does it feel specifically ugly versus just fat?
Yeah, like a little deeper cut.
Yeah.
It's like meaner. I don't know why, but I will share that like literally last week, and I realize it's starting to affect me, and because I feel like I'm normally a pretty confident person, I guess when I'm at a certain weight, but when I gain and I notice I feel like a little more excess around the belly, I get more self-conscious. And so like last week I achieved something really great that I've been working on, which was double unders in my CrossFit classes, which was taken like over a year to accomplish. And I had my coach like record a quick video of it. And then I watched it and I was like, oh my God, I was like so self-conscious of like, oh, my belly's jiggling and I don't like it. And so I decided not to post it, even though it was like a huge win. And because I was self-conscious about that. And so I guess that's still there for me in a way. And I realized, wow, that's really holding me back in a lot of ways when I have this perception of things. And it's really, you know, most people that like look at me, they'd probably be like, what are you talking about? You're not bad at all.
I know, I just see your face, so like I can't like really
like, yeah,
see.
Most people
like...
are like my fiance, and like most people are like, you're actually pretty thin. And I'm like, well, yeah, I don't feel like it all the time. So yeah, I know it's Mm-hmm.
So this actually leads me into a question, which is, I mean, I think part of it is we primed with a difficult experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so picking out an instance where something is not going 100%, as we explore that, I imagine you're likely to find something that is not positive or difficult, right? Like I don't feel lonely all the time. That's not my general experience. But when I'm in that particular state, that particular like place in my life, that is a feeling that comes up. So the question that goes along with that is, you know, it sounds like there are a lot of different potential prompts and whatnot that can be used.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you've seen any difference on like positive or negative prompts, because I can see how, hey, this is useful because I'm not tapping into this feeling normally, right? And if I just do positive prompts, like I'm never getting this like, hey, maybe I should talk to someone when I'm frustrated information.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just starting out, I could see how it might be really hard, like it was, you know, for just now for Alice to share and stuff. Like, so I'd be curious if there's any play there, what you've seen or experienced in that realm.
Yeah, so we usually like to understand what's going on and realize that there's like a deeper meaning to that. So that's why we ask like the why questions, and could go very much into understanding why you're feeling like that and what's happening here. So that way we can move on to the future. So let's say what I would tell you now is after you go and talk to someone, go and journal about that. Now see how it was. You could do the exact same thing, draw a picture of you and that conversation with the other person, and now journal how was that. Now that doesn't, I said a difficult thing because that's like usually when people like sit down to go and do these things. For a not difficult thing, like if you had like a really good day, a really good prompt for that would be is to draw, to just start by drawing like a little, like start from the morning all the way till like the evening when you're going to be doing this prompt, and just like draw little pictures of everything that happened. And then first of all, you can leave it just like that. You might like notice things that you didn't before, or just like process in your brain. Your brain will be able to actually like slow down and appreciate what that day was. And then if you want, you could have like each picture, like tell you a sentence or two with your non-dominant hand, and you might understand something even deeper. Like I remember one day when this happened, I had to give a workshop. I think it was over Zoom. And, during that day, a little bit before, it was like a crazy storm by me, and like power went out for a couple of hours. Now, I didn't even realize until I did this journaling thing in the end of the day, but the power went on like literally 10 minutes before my workshop. And then that means like all my cables, all my things, like I wouldn't have been able to do it like on my regular computer, my laptop, like just everything. And I would have had to do it on my phone, which would be fine, but it's just like way harder, like to do a workshop when you're presenting to like a couple of dozen people and like what's going on here. So I was just like able to be so much more grateful for that situation, because like it was like a busy day. It was great. Everything was going so well, but like I sat down and I like processed it, and I realized like, hey, the power went back on and now I had that. So there's a million different ways for you to go and take it and turn it. And it gives you different experiences based on what you need at that moment.
Cool. That's really helpful. I just wanted to flag that because not everyone may not be ready at all points for some of the heavier lift stuff.
Totally.
I just know some of the people I've talked to, worked with, et cetera, like sometimes if you start with an exercise, especially something like this, where you're not going to be used to it no matter what, unless you happen to be doing this specific thing. Sometimes it's easier on ramp to like start it and get used to the exercises themselves with something a little easier and then move into the heavier stuff. So thanks for sharing that other set of prompts, another route.
Yeah. Even like to just start. That's why I said I started with the scribbling thing because that's a really good one.
Yeah.
But even like to literally just start, practice with writing your name. Like just get into that mind with your non-dominant hand, writing your name, writing sentences about yourself, writing like, I love different things, different people, or even like if you write three things that you're grateful for every night, then like, how about doing it tonight with your non-dominant hand and see what happens?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. I love that you have a lot of different starting points where people are at. I think both Donovan and we've done a lot of personal development work over years. So I think we're ready for this exercise. But for someone who hasn't done a lot of that self-discovery work, I think, having like a starting point, just scribbling is a great suggestion. Yeah. Great. Excellent. So yeah, Esty, this has been definitely an eye-opening experience. I was not expecting it. Initially, when I heard the topic, I was like, what? I don't understand it. I don't know where we're going to go with this. But now that you've explained it and the science in it makes sense. And actually, I got like a lot of value out of doing that exercise. So it was like, oh, what does like because I know, the opposite, like our emotional brain is kind of like our childhood self, and the intellectual brain, our prefrontal cortex, is like our adult and logical and thinking, and we do spend a lot of time in that. But I don't always tap into that childhood, that's self, that is a little like thinking they're ugly because of something like silly over like 5 pounds or something like that. But it's just like it's those emotional triggers that are important to like get in touch with, because that helps dictate how we go about our lives. So I think that's really important for our audience. So I appreciate everything you shared and the tools that you gave.
Oh, thank you. It was so much fun speaking with you. And I love how you guys actually did it and like shared about it and showed how real it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's called like basic exercise. We go so much further in it afterwards. So really, like, if people that are listening, like, you want to just try it in your own way, like see what else you could do and just do it with your non-dominant hand, see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. And Esty, is there anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up today?
The best way that you could go and like continue with me and hear more great things would be on my podcast, the LifePix Relationship Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And yes, it's true, it's about marriage, but there's a lot of other stuff on there also. So yeah, I could see you there.
Awesome. Great. Well, great. It's been a pleasure having you. Thanks for being on our show.
Thank you so much. I loved every second of this.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.